record and to use your faces when this goes up live on our new YouTube channel. So if you are not happy with that, basically too bad. You're going to enjoy this webinar. Thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand over now to our Director of Coaching and Games Development, Gerald O'Connor.
Thanks, Owen, and welcome back, everybody. This is our third webinar to date, and I suppose it's coming at a nice time when people are really thinking about getting back to the field and being creative with their teams. I suppose good coaching makes players confident about improving their competence and encourages creativity. Creativity involves a two-way process. First, the thinking bit, and then the doing bit. So innovation or creativity is both of those coming together and implementing them. If we only have the ideas but don't act on them, then it's just imagination. So we want to be just more than just imaginative coaches. We want to be creative coaches. So I'm delighted that Niall is delivering for us tonight. Niall has been working for Dublin GAA for over 13 years and has been an active coach for over 20 years and brings a lot of creativity to all of his practices. So I'm going to hand you over to Niall tonight for creative in your coaching. Thank you.
Thanks, Ger. How's it going, everybody? I know you guys are muted and can probably only see me or a couple of other people. So I'm going to imagine you guys have all got smiles on your faces and are ready to go here. I hopefully won't have any technical glitches. My plan will be to use a couple of bullet points and a few slides to use as a discussion piece, but ideally I want it to be as flowy as we possibly can. So I'm conscious that there's some people still coming in. So just a couple of things that Owen said there. It's just after 8 here. Just a couple of things that Owen said there. I just want to reiterate just from my own point of view, if that's okay, especially for those that are still coming in. That's the doorbell still coming in. So, okay, couple of things. If you're comfortable with it, share your screens. If not, obviously just leave them off. There's no issue there. But I'd love if you guys were visible to me and visible to each other for certain times here. What I asked Owen to put in the email when he was sending something out to you guys was to be open-minded, and I guess that is something that I'm going to be relying on. Okay, some of the stuff I'm going to throw at you maybe is obvious. Some of the stuff is maybe less obvious, and then some of the stuff you might think is a little bit silly or foolish. Okay, so the aim of the game is to try and get people thinking in different directions, and that might land with some people and not with others. But that's okay. I'm very conscious that we've got a multitude of people on the screen here. All right, so we've got people involved with nurseries, and we've got people involved with senior adult teams and everything in between, boys and girls, camogie, ladies football. So what I'm going to try and do is pitch what we're talking about to everybody. So it's going to be maybe general, and then use specific examples where we can that might try and lean on certain age groups or whatever. What I'd love is if you guys would like to throw something in the chat, as Owen said, or you want to pick me up on a point or disagree with a point I'm making, or ask me to go a little bit further, please throw it in. I want to be as interactive as we can. I'm very conscious that the environment that we have here is more me giving you guys information and me giving you guys my thoughts. I want it to be the least amount to be talking as I possibly can. So if I can get some input from other people, then I want to go that way. The last point there is sort of, it sort of captures what my particular style might be. Okay, so I like to think that I'm a thoughtful, planned, thought out, prepared coach. But in an ideal world, every session, every workshop, every discussion should be able to take a life of its own. We might fling off on a few tangents, but the idea will be that we hit the points that we need to hit by the end of it, and hopefully it'll be worthwhile to people at the end. Okay, so that's my simple goal for the evening. All right, make you remember something worthwhile. Whether that's something I said, whether that's something you see, whether that's something that you do, the idea will be that I want you guys to leave here thinking, okay, if Niall is doing another webinar next week, then I'm not going to be running a million miles from it. Okay, it wasn't a waste of my time. And some of the stuff might apply more to others than to me, but I left with something, and hopefully more than something. And for me, that's almost what captures what should capture us as coaches, regardless of who our players are. And we want them leaving having remembered something, having felt good, having experienced something that had an impact on them. And that's a hard thing to do every week or every Tuesday and Thursday. But, you know, trying to get the players to feel our sessions as opposed to feel our sessions is basically maybe a woolly way of capturing what I'm trying to do there. So, who am I and why should you be listening to me? So really, really simple. I'm going to unshare this screen here for a sec, just so we can get a sense of everyone here. So some of you guys are on the phone, some of you guys are on the tablet. So hopefully you can see other people on the screen there. We have 113 people. That's great. So I can flick it and see a few other people on the screen there. Jer told you a little bit about me. Okay, so I went and did sports science in DCU. I've been working with Dublin GAA for the last decade or more, and I've been coaching since I was 15 or 16 at multiple levels. All right, that's basically I like the West Wing and pina coladas and that sort of stuff. Okay, so what I want to try and do is get a little bit of a sense of who you guys are. So Owen had captured everyone's registration. So everyone had to fill in a couple of points about themselves, their club, their email address, and the team that they're involved with, and the county that they're from. So what I did was I sort of broke GDPR regulations a little bit. I got obviously a Dublin person, and I got the address from their club. And what I did was I contacted a member of this person's household, and I got them to plant a Ferrero. Okay, so what I'd like everyone to do is have a look under your chair and see if you're the person that got the Ferrero Rocher. Everybody have a look there. I'm just scanning through all. Have a proper look. If it's not under your chair, it's around your person somewhere. Obviously, there's only one. I'm looking. Anybody found it? Mickey in New York there. Mick, any sign of it now? No, we're saying no. Okay, so right, obviously, Mick, you're in New York. I didn't get a Ferrero Rocher transported over to you. Okay, look, I didn't actually send a Ferrero Rocher to anybody. I can't believe everybody on the screen that I'm looking at looked under their chair there. Right, so that tells me a little bit about you guys and that you're open-minded. So I appreciate it. Peter, under your chair, so I don't appreciate the closed-mindedness there. I know some of you guys on the screen. Some people are from my own club. Some people are GPOs in Dublin here. Some people are members of clubs that I would have a contact with, and then other people are how to, just so I have a sense of things. If you can use this, and don't worry if you can't, give me a thumbs up if you classify yourself as a North Sider. I know not everyone's a dub here. Give me a thumbs up if you're a North Sider there. Half. If you're not from Ireland or Dublin, you have to associate yourself with the North and South. Okay, so we're about half. Okay. And all the lads with their screens off are Southsiders and no crack, so that's fine. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to try and lean on that a little bit, and we're going to speak a little bit about team dynamics and stuff like that. So what I want to do is right from the start is tell you a little something about myself. So I'm just going to reshare this screen with you for a second here. Now, hopefully you guys can see that. Okay, so what I basically want is, I want you guys to know a little bit about who I am. Okay, so I've told you a little bit, and you'll find out a little bit more as we go. Okay, so creativity. So Jer suggested this title to me: creativity in your coaching practices. So the Oxford English Dictionary defines creativity as ... I've been on loads of webinars where they start by defining what it is. Okay, for me, it's very hard to define creativity, and I don't like putting it into a box. What I like to do is try and talk about different concepts over the next, if it's good, it might take us 20, 30 minutes. If it's crap, this will only take 10 or 15 minutes and we'll fly through it, okay? So hopefully the time will fly one way or the other, okay? So instead of trying to define it, what I like to do is maybe throw a few things at you guys, and if anybody wants to fling something back at me through the chat, then do that. Okay, so this second point here is really, really critical for me, okay? Creativity means different things to different people, and it's important that we sort of almost embrace what that is. There's no point in going to see, for those of you that know, a Paddy Butler, one of the best coaches in Ireland, as far as I can see. He's a hurling guy, and everyone that goes to his sessions, be they 4 years old or 84 years old, come away going, oh my God, that guy just resonates with me. He's from Tipperary. He's got a graph for hurling. He's funny. He's witty. And he's self-depreciating, okay? But somebody else who's equally as good might be a bit more introverted or a bit sillier or a bit whatever. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that try and be authentic in who you are. Don't try and lean into yourself. So for me, in terms of when we're trying to think of ways to be creative in our sessions, people will see through us trying to blag it, if you want. Of course, we need to go out on limbs. In fact, it's important to go out on limbs, but we don't want to be someone other than ourselves. Oftentimes, we need to be an exaggerated version of ourselves. So I see a few of the GPOs on the screen here. So the lads that go in, they coach the kids in the schools on a daily basis. They might have slept in, they might have had a bad night's sleep, they might have had a fight with their wife, but they're going in and they've got 28-year-olds standing in front of them, and they need to be that. They need to be that guy for that session. And there's a huge onus on us, whether we're coaching the nursery kids or the senior players in our club, to be on when we're in front of them, you know. But that doesn't mean that my particular style is a little bit wacky, a little bit foolish. I like sort of getting involved as much as I can and not being afraid to maybe play the clown sometimes. But that doesn't work for other people, and it shouldn't work for everybody. So maybe trying to embrace whatever your style is. And the reason why kids and players ultimately will gravitate towards us or trust us is that they know that we're trying to build something for them. We're trying to give something for them. We've got their best interests at heart. And my style is different to someone else's style, is different to someone else's style, and that's totally fine. But trying to be authentic and accepting that, for me, is the first step in the journey, if you want, of trying to create our most creative coaching style. So I'm just going to keep going here. Okay, so what I have here is creativity is often born from necessity. All right, so there's some people that every session they do, they're going to try and come up with 3 or 4 different novel things that they've never done before. And then there's some people that rely on structure. They rely on knowing what works. They rely on having an organized session, if you want, because there's a control there, which is really, really important. We need to have parameters for the kids to make sure that they're safe, for want of a better word. But oftentimes we need to be more creative because we can see, oh Jesus, the kids are finding this boring, or we've done this 10 weeks in a row now. How can we mix it up? So it's not that I want it, it's that I almost have to, because the players are forcing me to do it because they're not engaging with what I'm doing. Or I'm from the Fianna, and we've got a tiny all-weather, 2 tiny all-weathers, where often there might be 70 kids playing hurling on a 30 by 70 bit of AstroTurf. How do we get 79-year-olds, how do we give them an effective session on that playing space? And that requires huge creativity. Whereas if we were out on a pitch with those 70 kids, we might be content to do what we know works. So we're almost forced into the process of thinking outside the box based on the limitations that we have, in terms of the equipment that we have, in terms of the ridiculously high numbers that some clubs might have, or the small numbers that we might have. How do I make this session for my 8-9-year-old camogie players engage in when they've seen me every Tuesday for the last 3 years? You know, that requires a huge amount of thought, and because there's less elements for them. There's only 8 of them, there's only 1 or 2 of us. There's only so many things that we can do, especially if we're relying on the same activities over and over again. And then the little trivial thing of the global pandemic that's been happening. So for me, the last few months is a perfect example of the need for us to be thinking as coaches, how can we engage with our players? So there's some teams that have been training via Microsoft Teams or online platforms. There's some teams that have been getting sent videos. There's some teams that are getting sent programs or challenges to do, or having to do homework if you want to get a certain amount of strikes or catches or reps in every single day. And that's very, very challenging. But it's almost forced us, and we had this conversation in the county board all the time, is that it's forced us now into doing things that we would have never thought of doing. And when all this is over and we're trying to get back to normality, we're going to hopefully return to a lot of stuff, but we'll hopefully keep the good stuff that's worked here now and keep it going forward. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unshare this screen for a second, okay? So what I want to do is I'm conscious I'm talking a lot already. So hopefully people will be open to doing this, all right? I had about half and half thumbs up, north side and south side, okay? So here's what I want us to do. I'm looking for the open-minded here, right? I'm looking for the north siders to go north and the south siders to go south as quick as you possibly can, all right? All the north siders, what I need you to do is, and whatever way you classify yourself as a north or south sider, I need you to go and get a pair of socks from your bedroom and come back as quick as you can. And all the south siders, you need to get a piece of fruit in your kitchen and come back as quick as you can, as quick as you possibly can. Off you go. Go, 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 go. All right, let's see. Everybody's up. Everybody's moving. Lovely. Loads of people with their videos off. That's not cool. Okay, well done. Beautiful. Right, so we've got apples, pears. Lovely. I'm not trusting everybody that's after getting the fruit. That means that loads of people have just been lazy and gone to the kitchen and there's no way to prove. Loads of socks. Okay, let's see. Who's the last person back there? Richard. Well done. Nice socks, Richard. Very good. Have you got a pair there, Richard, or is that just one? You've got a pair. That's fair enough. Now, Peter, well done. You've got an orange. Now, I'm conscious that everybody can't see everybody else here, right? Okay. But what I should have explained at the start was that the last one back has to do a forfeit. Okay, so the first one back that I saw, let's just say Mark Grant. Okay, Mark, can you hear me?
Yeah.
See me? Okay. So Mark, you were the first one back. You're going to get to pick the forfeit. Sing us. You don't have to do this, by the way. Sing a song, do a dance, tell us an interesting fact. You tell us which one you want the last one back to have done.
Do a song.
Do a song, lovely. Okay, completely at random here, and I don't know how this is after happening, and it just happens to fall on someone that I know, okay? So I'm going to spotlight the person that was genuinely the last person back, all right? Let me see now. Who could this be? Who could this be? Peter! What are the odds? What are the odds? Peter Elliott there. Now, Peter, what we're going to need you to do, what was it, Mark? Was it sing a song?
Sing a song, yeah.
Peter, we're going to need you to unmute yourself and give us, let's say, 10 to 15 seconds of your favorite tune there.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Right, this is for all the dubs and anyway, okay. Alive, alive, oh, it's 5 in a row. Crying cuckoos and mussels, it's 5 in a row.
Lovely, well played, well played. Everybody is clapping on mute there, Peter, so well done. Geez, actually, everyone is clapping. I was only joking there. I thought that was terrible, but everyone is clapping. So well done. Okay. So, Mark, thanks for the forfeit there. Peter appreciates it. I'm going to mute you guys again and take you off the hook. So, Mark just happens to be the third person on the screen beside me, and Peter happens to be the last person. But Peter, you actually were the last person back with a piece of fruit there. The point of the matter is that I want you guys to leave this going. That was funny that Peter had to sing song. All right. There's some kids that are going to I'm just going to spotlight myself here for a sec. Sorry. There's some kids that are going to get their shine from the skills. They're going to be the athletic ones, the coordinated ones, the ones that got all the touches. They're going to get their enjoyment from what they do in the session through their through the games and through the success in the games. There's other people with different strengths that we need to make sure get that shine as well, but we might need to do it in a different way. But we need to do it in a way that doesn't put someone in a I don't know, pressurized outside of their comfort zone, if you want. So I actually happened to have Peter there. I knew that he'd be comfortable doing that because we can't shut him up in the GPO group singing half the time. Okay, so he was okay to do that. I wouldn't have picked Richard to do that, even though Richard, I'd say you've got a beautiful singing voice as well there, because I don't necessarily, you don't have to show me your socks anymore, Richard, it's okay, right? But I wouldn't have picked him to do that, and because I don't know if he would have been comfortable or not. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to challenge people to push their boundaries, to take a risk at times, not be afraid to go out on that limb at times, but do it in a way that we know isn't going to put people under hugely undue pressure. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about that in just a moment, okay? So let me see. I'm just going to reshare this screen with everybody. So hopefully everyone can see this. So this is something that is, you know, as I should have said at the start there, whether coaching and webinars or whether workshops are a strength of mine, I don't know. But what 100% isn't a strength of mine is PowerPoint. So I'm very conscious that this stuff is a bit bland or whatever. So hopefully we won't spend too much time reading this stuff. But what I've got written at the top there is a rule that I almost live by. Okay, if the players can set up the session before I set up the session, it's probably not a great session. Okay, so what we need to do is, and balance is a word I'm going to use a couple of times throughout this, we need to make sure that we're challenging the players to a point where they're not at sea with 10 new activities every training session, but they're being challenged in every session doing something different than they ordinarily would do. Whether that's changing the order or changing the condition of a game they already know, or telling them to do something fun, or putting them on the hook to do a group chat, whatever the hell it happens to be. But trying to make sure that there's an element of familiarity and of novelty in most sessions that we do. Okay, and in a second now, because sometimes I actually think that when people equate their coaching to, or it's not equate, when people think about what's important and they think of fun and they think of all that sort of stuff, we often think of the kids in the club on a Saturday morning, we think of the kids in the mini leagues, and we think of the kids in the camps, but we partition that in our heads oftentimes that, okay, well, they're under 13 now, it's that old unbelievable sketch where it's you pull hard into your man and wait until next year when you're under 14 type thing. Everything's got to be full on all the time, serious, and we forget sometimes that the point of having them there is, of course, to make them better players, of course, to make them more competent at whatever the skills are, but ultimately we need them coming back next week. We need them to be the best player they can be when they're 18, 20, 22, 28, 38. In my case, you know, I need to keep thinking that, you know, it's okay to still be playing as you get up through the ages. But ultimately, if we can't engage the kids and we can't keep them coming back with a sense of variety, if you want, then it doesn't matter what type of player they become in 10 years, because they won't still be in the club. And this is a cliche that oftentimes is thrown out there, but it's so true. Kids won't remember what you tell them, they remember how you make them feel. That quote I just said there, kids won't remember. For me, I think that applies to all of us, okay? So I'm going to throw up some slides with some information. You'll forget what most of the information is, okay? But what hopefully you won't necessarily be able to regurgitate it verbatim, but you'll be able to hope how you felt when you saw Peter sing a song, or when you saw someone do something else or whatever. Those are the things that we need to make sure that we're given on a day-to-day basis. And this is a really important point, I think. How is the more important than what? So what is a big challenge for Dublin GAA at the moment for a lot of people is that a lot of new parents are bringing their kids down. They have no background in GAA. You know, they've heard good things, or they get a flyer through school, or their friends are coming down, or whatever it is, and they have GAA is, and that has its disadvantages. But for me, it also brings huge advantages, because sometimes people think that, well, look, I've never played hurling, I've never played football, I wouldn't know where to start. You know, but give me a person that has the skills of the communication skills, how they can build a rapport with the kids, how they can get a message across, how they can knock a bit of banter, a bit of crack out of them. For me, those how to coach skills are way more important than what we coach. It's easier to tell people that you put your strong hand on top and you point your toe for a punt kick and you have your W shape for the high catch. It's easier to teach them those skills than it is to teach them the communication skills, if you want. And so something that again goes back to the creativity part of it is that sometimes everything doesn't need to be a football drill or a camogie drill or a hurling drill or an drill for it to be useful, in terms of the games themselves, but for them to be useful in terms of what the kids are getting out of the session. And that is a really, really important thing that I really want to stress, and especially for those that maybe haven't got a huge amount of confidence in themselves, actually teaching the intricacies of the skills. What I say there is find a balance, and I mentioned that a couple of minutes ago. We don't want to be a traveling circus. We don't want the kids and the players to be thinking all the time, Jesus Christ, what's he going to throw at us next? Like, I don't want you guys on edge now thinking that I'm going to get you to go and pull a pair of jocks out of your bedroom drawers next. I don't want you to think that, right? I want you to be engaged in what I'm doing, but then be able to almost embrace something that's a little bit new, okay? So we need to find that balance. It's not 10 new things all the time. It's a change of thought, a change of direction, a change of pace, that just keeps things more interesting. The interest levels being engaged is the most important thing. And my firm belief would be that everybody, especially at the moment, we're trying to stay engaged with the kids. Geez, we better send them. What if their striking's getting worse? We better ask them to do 200 touches every day. We'll train them 3 times a week. We need to stay in touch or whatever. But sometimes less is more. Sometimes, like, I would much rather a session was over 5 minutes too early than 5 minutes too late. You want the kids skipping out the gate so that they're skipping back in the gate as opposed to have to be dragged back in. And I was listening to the last point there, three is less than 5, but 5 is greater than 7. I was listening to a podcast there last week. It was a Joe Rogan podcast, and he was talking to a martial arts guy, and he basically said when he was growing up, he took his martial arts really seriously, and he used to train 3 times a week. And he looked over at the other side of the mat, and he saw the guy that was putting it in 5 days a week, and he was progressing quicker than him. So he was like, okay, geez, I think there's a lot to be said for upping the reps here. But then he looked to the other corner of the gym, and he saw the guy that was there 7 days a week, and he was always grumpy, he was always tired, he was always burnt out. So he was doing 2 additional sessions, extra reps, but those reps weren't impactful. In fact, they were almost draining them more. So knowing where that balance is and knowing how hard to push, how hard to go to whatever. And the reason why I'm harping on this point is that everything doesn't, like, people are talking about, okay, we need to get 500 ball contacts, we need to be able to solo the ball proficiently by the time they're under 9, all these things. Of course, those things are important, but the more important thing is the way we're communicating those things, because we need the kids not only to do the stuff and be enthused about it in the session, but ideally we want them leaving and without being forced to taking the hurl out from under the stairs when they get home from school and going pucking or going kicking, because we're helping to create a bit of a graft for the game as opposed to it being homework for them. I'm conscious I'm talking a lot here now, so if anybody has anything that they want to pick me up on, do that as we go, or throw something into the chat.
You mentioned there just there now about obviously the skill element, the game element. So hitting that sweet spot as a coach, how can you be kind of creative to support your players to make those decisions, to be creative as you're kind of talking about now in a way?
So, you were sort of going in and out. So how can you be creative in terms of trying to develop the skills?
Yeah, because you talk about challenging your players, but you want them, because you're challenging them, and what you did in Peter earlier on, you knew, so you're supporting them in that sense. So, how important is it that you know your players, that you know not only what they can do, but also how they're feeling, etc.?
Sure. Okay, great question, and I suppose it's the title of this slide here, and I guess it's everything. So oftentimes, someone would come and ask, listen, I've got another 10 football team here. Can you give me some drills of what might work for them, or whatever? And I actually find that a very difficult question to ask, because for me, it's very hard to quantify what this under 10 team is about and what they know and what they've done, and be able to pitch something to them. So knowing their ability levels as a group, knowing their history almost, if you want, like, are these the the team in the club that everyone's got earmarked because it's the 4 best coaches and they take things too seriously and all that sort of stuff. So what I would pitch something different to those than I would maybe a group of novice 10-year-olds that are only starting to play GAA. And I would always do something the same. I always try and hide the technique in the activity. So by that I mean, if we can try and think of ways, not ridiculous games, but think of ways to change up a simple game. So let's say it's a hand pass and drill back and forth, okay? Instead of it just being hand pass back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then we do the simple things like count how many you can get in 30 seconds, try and beat that score. All of that is good. But for me, trying to change that up so that we give them a different thing. We might try it in a few minutes. But, instead of just hand passing, I need to give them something else to think about. So on the whistle, they need to do this. Or after they get a certain amount, they need to swap places or whatever it is. Their focus now is swapped away from the technique, which they're doing anyway, to, okay, I need to swap in a second, or I need to listen to the call or whatever it is. So at the end of the 3 minutes, if you ask them what they did, they said they played a game of switch swaps places or whatever. But in reality, what they did is they've done that, but they've also hand passed the ball 75 times as well. So trying to come up with hooks that makes that stuff interesting, I guess, is important. So what do they think about? What do they do? Who do they watch? What do they value? Okay, so who do they? So maybe if it's what do they watch? If we're dealing with the smaller kids here, instead of playing a game of Shipsy Shore, we pick 3 places that's in Paw Patrol or in Blaze or something like that to try and equate it. If we know that they're doing their counties in school, we pick 3 different places like that. If we know that that all of the kids are mad about Johnny Cooper because Johnny Cooper is the Dublin player of note in our clubs, then but by simply asking them sometimes on, those simple questions, how are you doing? What are you doing in school? Getting them maybe to contribute to what the game might be. Are you doing that in school? Okay, well, how about we put that into the game? So all of a sudden now they have a stake in it. They have an involvement in it. We're still delivering it, but they've come up with an idea that we're throwing into the session. And again, the next slide, I want to go a little bit deeper into that. But actually, this is something, and again, this is maybe an old coaching thing, but obviously we've got 20 different. If you've got 20 people in front of you, you've got 20 different learning styles. If you want, everyone has different percentages of I take a bit in when I see it, I take a bit in when I hear it, I take a bit in when I'm shown it. Okay, so we need to know. Okay, I can explain this to the 20 people I have in front of me, and without having to explain it again, I know those 5 boys are going to get it straight away, and they'll go into the drill. But the other 10 boys need to see it before they can understand that we have to do it. And 5 of the boys maybe need help actually doing it. So pointing their toe or showing them how to straighten their arm or clench their fist or put their strong hand on top or whatever it is. So knowing those things, and in our explanations and in our modifications, we're ensuring that we hit those boxes. We're not just saying it, we're showing it. We're not just saying it and showing it, we're almost doing it as well. And the percentages that were thrown out before, tell me I forget, show me I remember, involve me I understand. Hopefully we've sort of migrated a lot of us away from I'm the coach, this is what I'm telling you to do, now go and do it, okay? Because people aren't bought into that. So if we can get them invested in it, they're more likely to want to do it, and they're more likely to understand it because they have some sort of a stake in it. So the last point that I'll make on this slide here, and I'm gonna unshare the screen now in a sec because I'm waffling on here, is knowing your goals and priorities. So here's a really simple thing that I live by. I'm still trying to hang in playing adult football, okay? When I hear about people setting sessions, or when I see the sessions that we're going to do, I always look for the bit of crack in it. Okay, I want to work hard, I want to work on my skills and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, as an adult footballer, I still want to enjoy it. And I think a lot of people, as we go up through the ages, disregard the importance of keeping the fun element and the engagement element in it. And people sort of would say, they're too old for that, or they don't want to be treated like kids. But in reality, if I'm taking the senior footballers for a session tomorrow, and I play a game of stuck in the mud with them, and I tee that up with them and say, okay, lads, we're going to play a game that flush the toilet, stuck in mud, or whatever it is. Half the eyes are rolling, oh, Jesus, what's the point of that? 5 seconds into the game, they're all a bunch of 5-year-olds again wanting to do that. And we still get what we need to get out of it. It's still a warm-up. It's still we're still injecting a bit of energy and increasing the heart rate and getting people thinking and moving and talking and all that sort of stuff. But it's a fun game as opposed to this is our serious dynamic warm that we have to go straight into all the time. And I'm not saying you played stuck in the mud with your senior team every time, but Garrett is a coach in Jude's that I know. I think he's on the screen here. I think he's too shy to put his screen on. But if I saw him, I'd throw him up there. He would be someone that I would look to because he's involved with the nursery in Jude's and he's involved with the senior team in Jude's. And he does a huge amount of crossover stuff with each of them to try and make sure that his adult players enjoy the sessions. So here's what I'm going to try and do here now. Let me see, gallery view. So who have I got now here? Brian, let me see now. Where's Yaz? Where is Yaz? Sorry, guys. No. Okay, so I'm going to pick on someone here that it looks like they have a little bit of space to maneuver in. Everyone's keeping their head down. Let's see, Peter, I'm not going to pick on you again there. Emma, are you sitting on the couch there? It's going to be hard for you to do this one. I'll tell you what, Owen, you're going to have to do it. Right, so here's what I need you to do, right? I tried this as a social distancing thing in a session the other day, and I don't know if this is going to work. I had someone else teed up to do this, and I can't see her, so Owen, tough, you're on the hook to do this. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pretend to play a game of chasing with yourself. Okay? Simple as this, right? You've got to pretend someone's catching you. You got to pretend you're catching someone. If you get caught, you got to stand with your legs open for 1 second. You've got to freeze someone and get caught. Okay? You've got a 4 feet by 4 feet spot to play in, right? And look, we're not going to go for long. We'll go for maybe 3 minutes, all right? And then we'll take a break. All right? So ready? On your marks, set, go. Right, off you go. We're down. Good touch. Right, you're caught. Well done. Well done. Now freeze someone. Get on the roof. Freeze someone. Quick, quick, quick. Freeze someone. Freeze someone. How do you free someone stuck in the mud, Alan? How do you free someone? How do you free someone?
Go to the legs.
Okay, I'm done. Well done. So, right, you're looking at that going, okay, well done. You're getting a clap there. Owen genuinely did not know he was going to do that. I had someone else I wanted to sting with that there, but I can't see her on the screen. So the point of it is that, especially one of the questions that was put in the thing was, how do we engage with people when we're social distancing? Sorry, I'm going to just spotlight myself back here again for a second. How do we make things fun when we're social distancing, okay? It's usually challenging to give people ideas or to do sessions with people when all they have is the space that Owen has there, 4 foot 5. How do you do hurling in that space there? And the answer to that is we need to try and think of there's no idea that's a bad idea. What I would often do is, kids have a much greater imagination than adults do. So asking them what we can do or how we can change something up or what we should do is hugely important. But there's a really important follow-up to that point. Asking people is one thing. Valuing what they say is the next thing. Because you're as well not to ask the question if you don't listen to what the answer is. And that doesn't mean that every suggestion I get from all the players is going to be a great suggestion, and we have to do that. But if we're going to ask the question, we need to at least value what the answer is and give them the respect, if you want, of potentially trying it. So I'm going to just share the screen here again. Owen, well done there. Get a well-deserved break. So the reason why I'm saying that is that so Jim Gavin has sort of perfected the cliche of facilitating the players. It's not about us, it's about the players, okay? The old school management hairdryer treatment is still actually in existence, but, sending out the cones and say, run from A, collect from B, give it to C. Hopefully that still exists because we need a certain amount of that. But if that's all we have in our coaching repertoire, then we're not going to create creative players. Okay, we need to put players in a position where they're thinking for themselves, they're challenging themselves, they're putting themselves out on limbs, and we're effectively creating parameters for them to work in. And then when they're in. The best compliments that I get from people is they're walking by a session and I'm doing, and they're going, "Jesus, that looked like absolute chaos there." And I know what's going on. The players know what's going on. But to the outside person, they might know what's going on. For me, that's what a match is. A match is not Peter give the ball to me, I give the ball to Maria, Maria sticks the ball over the bar. It's there's someone hanging out of me, as there's loads of people shouting on the sideline. There's 5 players on my team calling for the ball. There's the referee running alongside me, and I'm not even sure how to solve the ball properly because I'm only 10. And I'm terrified of taking this shot because if I miss now, everyone's going to think that I'm crap. So what we're going to try and do is we're trying to put players in the situation where they're not risk averse. And the best way to do that is to be not risk averse ourselves. And why is that important? Because if we ask a question and we get an answer that we're not sure about, do we dismiss that answer or do we try it? Do we go, okay, geez, Peter, I'm not sure if that'll work or not. I keep talking to Peter because he just happens to be the first person on my screen there. I'm not sure if that'll work or not. Let's give it a go. Let's change this. Anybody got an idea how we can change this game? Paul says, let's try and do it a week foot, or let's do a roll after each catch or whatever. It's right. Let's try it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's absolutely fine. Some of the suggestions that come back might be totally outlandish and off the wall. Okay, let's run across the pitch on our hands. Okay, well, let's maybe try and build up to that. But we need to try and get that involvement, and especially for the players that don't get the shine on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? Not every player is going to score 6 goals every session. So how can we lean on the strengths of other people that are good at dancing, good at singing, good at telling jokes, good at ideas, intellectually very, very strong? How do we lean on those things and bring people along with us who won't be scoring those 6 goals a game? I'm looking at the clock here, and I'm just conscious of people's time, but I'm just going to keep going if that's okay. To give responsibility. Get someone to interject and change a game. Get someone to take the lead on a drill. Get somebody to count the reps. Okay, there's 2 teams. One team has to try and get as many balls over the bar in a minute. Put somebody on the hook from the other team to count it. Okay, they're going to be trying to swindle you now. You count how many they get. You're in charge of this. This is your little portion. You're counting something simple. Okay, but that's me adding a little bit to the session. That's me giving a little bit to the session. Open to trying new suggestions, use activities to encourage decision making. I want to show you something now in a sec that hopefully will sort of ram that point home. Encouragement, right? That's the most obvious thing I can possibly say. It's great that we as coaches are encouraging the kids. And in general, I think if you go across most sidelines, you still see things that you shouldn't see and hear things that you shouldn't hear. But in general, most people have the right idea and they're trying to encourage kids that are maybe making mistakes and, it's head up and chin up and next ball and all that sort of stuff. That's great. The more impactful way of doing that is to try and get the kids to organically build those habits themselves. It's a lot stronger coming from the lad that's standing beside me to say, well done, don't worry, get the next ball if I drop a ball short. That's a lot more, or generally I think, it's a lot more impactful than it coming from the coach or the parents all the time. Because the mammies and daddies hopefully will always say, listen, you had a great game and don't worry about that. But kids can often, oh, geez, I can't believe you dropped that ball. I can't believe you did that. So if we can try and engender that in the kids, and it won't happen overnight, that is hugely impactful. That's the on the pitch stuff. The off the pitch stuff then comes with, depending on the age that we have, how can I get to know the players better? How can I get the players to know each other better? So one of the second point there, get to know you exercises. One of the best things I ever heard was a coach in my own club. They did an exercise with their girls team. It was under 10 or 11 girls team at the time, that they were struggling to keep the girls' attention in the sessions over the course of a number of weeks or months, and they were sort of struggling to think of ideas. So what they did was they got all the girls, a bunch of 10-year-olds, into a room, and they asked them to tell them a little bit about how they felt things were going, what they thought, what they would like to see done in the sessions. Basically what they thought was good or what they thought was important. They wanted to ask them, and then they asked all of the girls to say something positive about every other girl on the team. Okay, so it was, Maria, bubbly, funny, silly, skillful, all these things, right? They got all of those words, the 30 words, they put them on a color-coded band, and they give all the girls a color-coded band in the club colors that had silly, funny, whatever it was written on it. And it was an exercise to try and get the girls to think about the team more than just a football team and a camogie team. The response to that was massive in terms of the girls behavior, the girls' buy-in, the girls' energy from the next session they did, because they felt a part of what they were doing themselves, even though they were a bunch of 10-year-olds. So obviously the coaches actually tried to take on board what they said. So they played less of certain games, or they did things a different way or whatever. So the girls felt they were listened to, and then gave that back on the other end. Which I thought was a hugely powerful thing to do. And again, it's not something that people would automatically think of when they're thinking about young kids teams as well. It's more about trying to keep them alive for the hour, trying to keep them not jumping over the fence. Make sure that if we start with 12, we finish with 12. That's a win, you know. But obviously then trying to get them bought in is the most, I don't know, the strongest thing we can do. I'm nearly there, folks, so I'm conscious I'm talking a lot here. One of the last points I'll make is, are we okay with what I just said? Questioning comes with an uncertainty about what the answer is. If they suggest something, am I comfortable enough as a coach giving them the wiggle room to say, okay, let's try that, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work? Or in a game situation, instead of me saying run to the left, kick it to the right, pass it to Paul or whatever it is, and me dictating every single move, am I comfortable enough and secure enough to take a back step, allow them to make some mistakes that I know they're going to make or whatever it might be, and park my ego a little bit and allow them to discover these things on their own, and knowing that they're not going to discover it after messing up in one match and by the next match they'll have it. It might take a few players 10 sessions to get something. It might take another player 2 years to get something. But ultimately, we're playing the long game here, and it's hard to see through that when we're standing on the pitch and you're wearing a Bowden jersey and you're playing Crokes and you're under nines, and it's all fun and games except for when there's 5 minutes left and there's a point in it. You know, and that's when our sort of our resolve is really tested about how much do we really trust in our own players to make the right decision regardless of what the outcome is. The last few points there, hopefully I just covered there. This is just some general things, and I'm rushing a little bit now, but for me, the best ideas are the ones that you can see your kids doing. Some of the things that I try in my sessions are something that I pick up after watching the 6 boys from across the road playing football in the park, and I see the games they're playing, or I look at what the kids are doing before the session, and I try and see where they're knocking a bit of crack out of that or getting a bounce from it, and I try and put something like that into the session, incorporate that into the session, because it takes their outside enjoyment, let's say, and puts it into the session. And it again gives them a little bit of sense of, geez, well, I actually came up with this, or I'm good at this because I do it outside the session, as opposed to just being the standard drill. One of my favorite drills, I'm saying, for buy-in and buy-outs there, this is a CrossFit term, I think. This is something that before some exercise sessions, some people have to run a mile in order to qualify to do the session type thing. I heard one of the teams in the club there last week, they were doing a Zoom session, and their buy-in from the public park session they were doing a running session. It was going to be a bit of a dogging session. So the buy-in was, I'm not advocating this, but it was a knick-knack on a random door on the way to the session, right? So, and they had to video themselves doing it, right, to get into the session, to be allowed to do the session. And the session, which was a bit of a nightmare of a session, was all about then having the crack of seeing people make a bit of a show of themselves, okay? So again, nothing to do with football, but everything to do with team dynamics. And it's something that was a creative way, I think, of getting people to look forward to or knock a bit of fun out of what otherwise would have been a dogging session. So last thing I'm going to do, I talked about trying to do things that are a little bit chaotic, do things that put people out of their comfort zone, trying to give power to the players and get people thinking a little bit. I'm just going to share this little video here. Some of you guys might have seen it before, and it sort of hopefully encompasses what I'm talking about here. Hopefully you guys can hear it.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
So that was a cycling ad. That was a cycling ad in the UK, and I sometimes use that in coach ed teams. I'm gonna throw everyone back up on the screen. Hands up if you saw the bear. Owen, Carl, Tara. Owen, I watched you watch this video an hour ago. You're not allowed to put up your hand the fact you saw the bear. You didn't qualify for that question.
I've seen it the first time.
You did see him now, in fairness, right? Okay, so I guess the point is that we're trying to create situations. I'm just going to put myself back up here, egomaniac. We're trying to create situations where, sorry guys, where's the spotlight there? So there we go. We're trying to create situations where the kids don't know what the outcome is. We don't want them looking straight down the channel to kick it into the corner all the time. We want to take the best option. We want to be able to use everything they see and try and take in everything they see. And what we do by putting them in those situations in training will help enable them do that in games. And for me, I just think that that's a cool little video that some of you guys might have seen before that basically gets us thinking a little bit differently around, okay, everyone thinks about how many ball touches can we get, but who cares how many ball touches if we don't have the ball type thing, you know? So we need to be able to see what's around us. The best players are the ones, what they say, the best snooker players, the best chess players, they're the ones that can see 4 moves ahead. They're the ones that can see what the other person is going to do before they do it. They don't have to be the fastest person. They just have to know or get a sense of what's going to happen and be able to plan accordingly. I had one other thing, but I'm very conscious of the time, so I'm going to leave that go. And I've already probably overstepped my own mark about going 5 minutes too long as opposed to, or 5 minutes too short as opposed to 5 minutes too long. So that's all that I really have, except for the last slide that sort of brings all that together that I might share with you guys or send to you guys in terms of the presentation. But in essence, hopefully the key points of what I'm trying to get across is the importance of knowing our players, the importance of not being afraid to take risks and go out on a limb, and not be afraid to look foolish at times, because we're trying to engender that in the players that we're creating. And oftentimes I think that the players on the team mimic a little bit what the style of the coach is, for better or worse. That's all.
Just okay, before we ask you a couple of questions, I know that there's a few that is in the group that Jer is probably going to ask, or I might ask. Just wrapping up, there's a few notes that I have that I'm sure some people would have similar, because we asked everybody to have a pen and paper, and if you're like me, you'll have a full page of notes here. Just a couple of last things, takeaways for me in terms of this, Niall. So you talk about decision-making, creativity, challenge, but being supportive along with that. You're building an environment, you're making connections with your players, you're getting to know them, you're keeping the session varied, enjoyable, you're questioning them in terms of their knowledge and understanding, but also how they can question each other through making their own games or changing a game. But the fact that they're comfortable in that setting. And one of the first things, this has happened to me before, is taking a new group, and Terence McWilliams always talked about show me. So one of the first things I'll try and do, and I know you do this as well, is getting a group, giving them a ball and saying, show me what you can do. Players, no matter what age they are, 4 or 5 years of age, or adults, do something that they're comfortable with straight away. And then you as a coach are thinking, oh, okay, Niall can hand pass the ball. Niall's really good at catching there when he's playing the ball, but Owen is just holding the ball. So he might be as comfortable at throwing and catching, and it gives you a little bit of a sense of what the players can do. And then the fact that you're letting them throw, so you're making them think for themselves, but that they're comfortable in doing that.
Yeah. So I don't mean to interrupt you there. There's just a couple of people that are saying they're struggling to hear you. You're sort of going in and out of mine as well. So I picked up everything that you said there, which captured, I think, what I was trying to get across. Hopefully most people sort of heard that little sum up. Can I get my apple? Can I eat my apple after running to get it, Ken? Yeah, have at it there. Yeah, I should have told you to get a chocolate bar. But in essence, I might as well just show you the last thing on the screen here. In essence, the bringing it all together bit is, sorry, don't mind this.
This is an aware.
Sorry, guys. Forget. We almost got away without computer glitches. So what I'd like to do is, if anybody wants to, and I'm conscious that we've been on for 55 minutes now, which is longer than I should have spoken for. Is there anybody that wants to throw anything into the mix there, or any questions that or comments that I could maybe try and tackle?
To be shared now, Niall.
Sorry, thanks, Owen. Yeah, for me, that's just sort of a few bullet points about what makes a good coach. The reason I picked that picture is that whenever someone puts up a coach on a presentation like this, it's always this happy-go-lucky coach, or this really fit-looking bloke or woman or something like that. Not everyone's built like that. Some people are a little bit introverted. Some people are a little bit grumpy. For me, some of the best teachers I had weren't the ones that were telling jokes. They were the ones that were able to get their point across without raising their voice above a whisper. Okay, and they leaned into that because that's who they were.
There's a number of questions there that I might ask the coaches, maybe to put their mic on and ask you directly, because they're really good questions. So maybe I might start with Damien Mullen. And Damien has a question just around his under-9 team. So Damien, would you mind maybe just sticking on your mic? Question that you posted in the chat, and we'll direct that then at Niall, please.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Happy day.
Yeah.
Great. So we have an under-9 team, and we have varying degrees of skill levels in that team. So we often have this conversation among the different coach and mentor team. Should we be streaming them, or do we try and keep everyone together? And so far, we've more favoured keeping everyone together. But what happens is then you can see the players who are more advanced, they kind of drop off, or they get bored, or they don't really engage. Then they kind of hang off a little bit. So I was wondering then, would it be a good idea maybe stream some of the sections of the session, or to try and give them their chance.
So for me, then,
yeah.
Streaming is a minefield of opinions, right? So I don't want to open that. But my simple response to that is that in an ideal world, we try and challenge all of the same kids in the same environment, but recognizing that some of them need a little bit more help. So by that I mean, we ran out of time. I was going to do a tiny little exercise here where we get people in the same thing, and we push them to challenge themselves. So whether that's you, who's the most skillful player, moving around, soloing the ball at speed with your right foot and doing a dummy solo, on me, who's maybe the weaker player, bouncing the ball with my stronger hand, or knee soloing, whatever it is. I'm still in my little world. You're in your little world. We're in the same square, the same environment. And I know it's easy to just pick out one example, but trying to make sure that we're not pigeonholing the kids too early. And that way then we can jump in, give a little bit of coaching input to the kids that need it the most, or even the kids that don't need it. The stronger kids need coaching too, and then put them back in. It's okay, I think, to focus on kids that need help. But what I would always make a concerted effort to do is that it's obvious to the kids if you're picking the same kids out over and over again. I would always make it my business to pick on one of the top 5 players on the team, to pick them out and give them a teaching point or a cue to say, flick your toe up a little bit more, don't plant your foot that hard on your weak foot, whatever it is, because everybody should feel like they're valued the same, if you want. But coaching kids of varying abilities, Damien, is probably the hardest thing to do as a coach. And as you get older, sometimes, especially in hurling, the gaps get a little bit bigger. And the argument for it is that you can't do certain activities that challenge the stronger players because the weaker players have a ceiling. And at under 9s, I'd be advocating trying to do as many communal activities as we can. That would be my point of view on it. But we need to do that in a way that still gives the weaker kids the coaching that they need. And literally, Damien, we can actually talk about this offline. Literally, we could spend the whole evening talking about streaming. And I'm sorry if that didn't really answer your question, right?
No, I hope we kind of stick to what we're doing, I suppose, and try and encourage. But we get I know what you mean. Spread out your points of view so that people don't feel like they're the weakest link that's always getting spoken to, and challenge it across the board.
So it is saying, before I move on to the next question, that when you start streaming with the boys, it's under 9. With the girls, someone can correct me, it's 12s, I think. Or sorry, not with streaming. With yeah, I think it is, isn't it? I think it is. But under 9s is for the boys anyway, from a GAA point of view.
Yeah.
Thanks, Damien. As Niall said, it's a complete minefield. Teresa McIntyre has a very good question in relation to getting back to activity and the fact that we have a very short window. So maybe, Trace, would you like to ask your question there to Niall, please?
Yeah, how are you, Niall? I'm coaching under 12 girls in Galway, and we're probably only getting back now, I'd say mid-July, the way it is, because we have to stagger our training with the lads and everything else because we're sharing pitches. But about 3 weeks after we start training, we actually are going into full fixture mode where we've got a match every single week for about 7 weeks in a row. So how, like me personally, I really think the training is more important than doing fixtures at this. I want to sort of alleviate the pressure that is on those girls for competing in the matches, so that they're not feeling like, okay, we've had so little training time together and now we've got to go out and win matches and that. So how do I kind of balance that out? For me,
it's by DM. So you're with the 12s in Galway, and so for me, it's about putting perspective into the girls' heads. So when I was with the 13s in the FINA, which was a particularly strong group that I was involved in, coming into their failure year, what I wanted to make sure was that people weren't looking at the failure in my case, or the fixtures in your case 3 weeks down the line, and putting that as a big circle in the calendar going, this is the be all and end all here. So I asked them all at the start of the year, I said, right, okay, let's get in the circle now, the 18 boys, right? What you want to get out of the year? Win the league, win the league, win the league, win the failure, win the failure, win the league and the failure. Oh, that's great, yeah. Okay. The last lad in the team said, make it to every training session, because this guy was a particularly strong soccer player at the time, used to miss every second session. Trying to make sure that the girls a balanced view of why you're training. And so using the matches almost not as an end point, but as part of what you're doing. So de-emphasizing the importance of the results effectively, and following through with that as your coach. So if you are trying to say to the girls that those matches aren't the be all and end all, then what you have to follow through with is making sure that you don't go crazy on the sideline, or build it up with them, or pick the strongest team and leave them on the pitch for the whole 60 minutes and leave the 4 weakest girls on the sideline. You need to follow through with that and putting things in place in the training sessions and reinforcing that in the training sessions, so that the matches are another step on the road. We're not training for the next 3 weeks for these games. We're training for, you're not going to say it to them like this, but we're training for you guys to be the best girls footballers you can be in 8 years' time. So ultimately, I like matches, so the girls will want to play the matches, but you need to make sure that as a group, it's hard to keep their individual focus, right? But as a group, they know that our focus is not on July the 20th playing Salt Hill or whatever it is. Our focus is on the next session. And for me, the way I would tackle that would be the making sure that they're getting that bounce out of every single session for the session itself, if you know what I mean. It sort of goes back to the creativity piece that I'm talking about. But making sure that they enjoy the process, the journey, the sessions along the way is the strongest way we can do that. I don't know if that answers your question, Shreya.
No, it does, because I know my initial reaction was, why are we even worrying about fixtures rather for underages this year, when my preference would be just get them out training again and get them enjoying it again,
Yeah, but don't underestimate the value that the girls put on the matches as well. Not from a competitive point of view necessarily, but from an enjoyment point of view. So what I'd say is, I wouldn't be overawed by that. I'd take that in your stride and just embrace it. But de-emphasize it from the top table if you want, so that the girls as a group at least aren't getting the message that this is the World Cup. Not that you would anyway, but
yeah, that's perfect, Niall. Thanks a million.
Jared, before, I don't know if there's another one there. I just spotted one there from Sandra. What's be a magpie? Sorry, I must have skipped over that.
I replied to Sandra on that as well. So
oh, sorry. For those of you that don't know, be a magpie is a Jim Gavin expression. It's basically rob through your teeth. Whenever you see a good idea, wherever it is, if the kids playing on the green, if it's the Irish basketball men's warm-up, if it's a tactic that you see in rugby, rob it. Okay, there's no such thing as an original idea almost, or modify an idea to suit your own needs. So basically, just take whatever you can from as many places as you can. That's what being a magpie is.
Just Niall, if I could come in there with maybe one question, and it's around that piece around the chaos. For beginner coaches, they want to be in control, and I can understand the control of a group. How do you let the leads or them off to allow their creativity and allow expression of the children in that chaos, but in some form of control?
Okay, so the simple answer for me with that is that we try and give them. We're still giving them rules. We're still giving them parameters. They're just looser than maybe they other people do. So my whole thing is that, okay, here's what you can do. Go and do whatever you want underneath those conditions. So don't go outside this platform. Don't run into anybody. Don't tackle anybody. But otherwise, take as many plays as you want. Hand pass the ball, kick past the ball, use whatever weak foot you want to give them the autonomy to do that themselves. What's going to happen then is that sporadically kids will go outside that, not necessarily deliberately, but just because they're mad to keep going, and they wander outside the square, or they kick past when they should hand pass, or whatever it is. And that's just a coaching cue to bring them back in. But it's innately harder to control them because that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build that chaos. So it's a harder job as a coach. But ultimately, I think it's much more fulfilling, if you want, for the kids to effectively make their own mistakes in the environment that we're creating. So it's a hard one. You need to know your group. You need to, like, some groups are typically more energetic or more prone to bad behavior. Maybe you need to keep them on a slightly shorter leash there, and that's a terrible expression, but you know what I mean. But ultimately, it makes your job as a coach a little bit harder, but it makes your job as a coach on match days a little bit easier, because they should have that better game sense, because they're being exposed to it in as many different elements as you can. So again, I'm not sure if that answers your question, Jer.
Yeah, and there was just a similar question there from Shane Martin, just around that very young age of the nursery. Shane, maybe you might want to come in and ask Niall that question.
Niall, just in terms of, a lot of times the under sixes, they're coming up and the parents bring them up. You try to incorporate as much fun into the session, but as soon as the session's over, maybe they're gone home with their parents. So to getting them, they're going to be going to the same school. So ideally, to get them that they know each other, that they have a couple of mates or a couple of friendship, ultimately maybe that's what's going to keep them coming back up and having a bit of fun. So any tips in terms of how you introduce them to getting to know each other that would be useful, if you have anything?
Sure. Okay. Off the top of my head, Shane, so Robin, my daughter, is going to be in the nursery in the Fianna now next year. So that's me officially in the girls section for the next 15 years. So these are questions I'm really going to have to get on top of, right? So what I would be doing there is sometimes there's no attachment from one Saturday morning to the next, okay? Not just with the club, but with a football or with a hurl. So trying to maybe, and this goes back to getting to know your players. So if they're in School Easagon or School Colum or Agnes's or whatever it is in Crumlin, and they are with 3 other kids from the thing, what I would be trying to do is, okay, Shane, Colum, Jer, and Owen, you guys are in your same class. What I want you guys to do is, in school this week, I want you guys to put your heads together and come up with a fun warm-up game we can do next week. Now, it might be absolutely mad and crazy and off the wall, but trying to get them to engage with each other because they're going to be on each other's doorsteps in school or on the road anyway, and putting it on their heads to come up with something. They might totally forget as soon as they walk off. So what you need to do is you need to tee up with their mom. Okay, by the way, remind him to do this in school on Monday. And when I come back next week, I'm going to ask them. They might have forgotten, they might not. But you try and use the parents to remind them and put them on the hook, so that when they come back next week now, they're giving you an idea that they have that you can incorporate into the session. The simple little things like, the club chants at the end of the sessions and all that. I mean, I think that's a good way of getting them ingrained. But in terms of getting them outside the sessions, that's a really tricky one. But that's where, again, I'd be thinking of a buy-in there. So a buy-in for me for the nursery might be, okay, before in the parents group on the Friday or Thursday, okay, before you come down, everyone has to draw a funny picture, or draw a funny picture of the coach, or draw a funny picture about hurling or whatever, and bring it down on Saturday. Or everybody has to bounce the ball 10 times or something like that. And when they come down, that's a hook then to ask them about that has nothing to do necessarily with your last session, but it's what did you do yesterday, or how many did you get, or did you bring your picture with you, and then trying to bounce them off each other. Then Johnny got 10, oh well I got 8, that's okay, or that's your picture and that's my picture. And again, it's nothing to do with GAA necessarily, but it's everything to do with the group, if you know what I mean. They're the type of things that I would look to do, Shane. They might fall flat on their face, but I would try it.
Thanks for that, Shane. Thanks, Niall. Just I know Owen just wants to wrap it up, but just maybe if I could thank Niall on behalf of all the coaches tonight. I suppose creativity is all about just thinking in new and different ways. So as coaches, the thing is that we have to look at things differently because what we want expression, we want emotion, we want storytelling, and we want the children to be creative and to try out those creative skills. So thanks very much, Niall, for tonight.
And sorry, Jack, could I just finish, because I'm conscious that there's some questions on the chat. Not that I have all the answers by any stretch. There's a lot of people on the call here that are far more knowledgeable than me. But if you do have those questions, I'd love to actually hear directly from you, and I could maybe go back to you directly. So if you wanted to send them to Owen, I'm not sure if you have my contact details, but to send them back to Owen, and I could maybe reply individually if that was okay. And all I'd say is, guys, that's after taking longer than I intended to. So I apologize for taking up more time than you guys were on the hook to do. I hope it wasn't a waste of people's time, and I hope people will come away with one or two things from it. If only that I'm a little bit of a fool and you had a bit of a laugh. So hopefully it was relatively worthwhile. Okay.
Top class, Niall. Guys, just before we finish, as Niall said, if you have any further questions for Niall, we're going to kind of finish up here now just before we do go. Send them on to me. You all have my email address, unfortunately. Just before you do go, guys, you'll see that obviously I have the recent publications that Dublin GAA have done, and obviously JR has. There's all of them are in obviously print format. However, on our website, dublingaa.ie/coaching, 3 of the books are now ebooks. All of the stuff that Niall has talked about, as he said earlier on, he said be a magpie, and all of the stuff in all of these books, guys, in terms of games and activities, are absolutely exceptional. Have been very well received, and are actually flying out the door anytime we put them up on social media. You can still buy them in print format, as I said, and 3 of our books are on ebooks on the website, and those books are Give Us a Game, 2nd edition, Advanced Game Sense, and Creative Game Sense. We're looking for all the rest of the books to be in ebook format, and we're hoping that'll happen over the next couple of months. But at the minute, you can still buy any of the resources. We'll be putting them up again on social media. Just to finish off again, guys, thank you for joining us. All of these webinars, this is the 3rd one, will all be put up on our new YouTube channel. That'll be sent. The link will be sent to all of you because you've signed up. So if you have missed any sessions before, or you'd like to kind of see any other sessions, those will all be put up going forward on our new YouTube channel, which should be launched tomorrow or Friday. Again, thank you for joining us. Next week's session will be Brian Cullen, and it'll be a pre-recorded session for a variety of reasons. It'll be on the YouTube channel, but again, you'll get that link before it goes on social media, before anybody else. Jared, do you want to just finish off there before we head off?
No, just to say thanks very much, and I'm sure you're all looking forward to getting off screens and getting out to fields with children and footballs and hurleys and slitters. And look, I'm sure that that you will be. It'll be a joy to get back out onto the field and get coaching and have your creative hat on from there on. So thanks very much, everybody, and particularly thanks to Niall for his presentation and for Owen for setting it up.
And again, just guys, I have Niall's presentation, so I will be sending on all of the presentations after all the webinars are finished. If you want the presentation before that, please let me know and I'll forward it on to you. But thanks again, Niall, and see you soon, guys. Take care.
Thanks so much, folks.
Thanks.